Welcome inside the RX Muscle Studios here in New York for another episode of Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. Glad you can join us on this Monday afternoon, the 11th day of April in the year 2016. We are usually on Wednesday afternoons, but our producer Johnny Styles is going to be touring Puerto Rico as part of an NPC promotional tour, so good for him, and that's why we are having this show on Monday. Reminder, in about 45 minutes or so, we are going to be joined live on our show Live with IFBB Pro Lionel Bayecki. Now, Lionel is someone we've been talking about having for quite some time. He recently competed at the Arnold Brazil, so you're in for a real treat as we are going to have him on live from Paris, France, here on RxMuscle.com. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, despite my insistence with Logan Palumbo in studio about 5 minutes ago, you refuse to have Logan make his RX television debut here in studio. Why is that?
He's not ready yet. He told me that he wants to be able to speak to the masses, and he only has baby talk right now, so we're not really sure what he says. So we don't want to make sure he might say the wrong thing. You never know. The theme of this week has been, and if you guys listen to Heavy Muscle Radio tonight, which will debut about 8 o'clock tonight, the theme of the show then, and the theme of this show, and maybe for the next 6 months might be end the ignorance. That's my mantra, Sid, because so many people out there are ignorant about nutrition, supplementation. They don't know how to read labels on these supplements they buy. They have no idea what they should be taking. They don't know anything about anything, and I'm sick of it. End the ignorance. End the ignorance. That's the theme, and I'm sure it's going to be the theme of many of my answers today, even though I don't even know what the questions are.
So there you go. Follow along. Hashtag end the ignorance if you're going to be tweeting or using Instagram. We'll start with the Muscle Central Forum on RxMuscle.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, sign up for the Muscle Central Forum on RxMuscle.com. It's free to register. That way, you'll have access to all our contest galleries. You'll be able to join in all the banter, all the analysis, all the talk surrounding the bodybuilding world on the Muscle Central Forum on RxMuscle.com. You could join us also on Instagram, on our YouTube channel by posting your questions on the right-hand side of the video player, on our Facebook page, or by tweeting your questions using hashtag AskDave. Let's go to Adanu. Hey, Dave, hate your show so much. I want to ask about pre-workout insulin so you shoot yourself in the head, and that's it for this terrible show.
Because everyone knows that I think it's ridiculous to take insulin before you work out.
That was just a great setup there, and then just a car going careening into the divider. Question, what do you recommend for women who have pre-contest estrogen issues like lower body water retention, aromasin question mark? Do you recommend an estrogen suppressor prior to stage time?
Yeah, this is a mistake that a lot of people make, and those of you who watch the show a lot are probably ready to throw up by now because I've mentioned it so many times. Women produce their estrogen from their ovaries. Men produce estrogen from the aromatization of testosterone. What does that mean? The testosterone can convert via aromatase enzyme into estrogen. That's why men would have estrogen in our bodies, because we don't have ovaries. So when you want to block estrogen production in a man's body, you take what's called an aromatase inhibitor, Arimidex, Femara, Aromasin. These are drugs that block the conversion of testosterone to estrogen. When you give that to a woman, not much happens because most of their estrogen is produced from the ovaries. You can't stop that from happening. But what you can do is you can block the estrogen receptors, okay? That means you're blocking the estrogen from getting to where they have to go to actually exert their effects. And that's a drug very commonly known as tamoxifen or Nolvadex. Women take that 10 milligrams twice a day, every 12 hours, and they effectively can neutralize the estrogen in their body. Now, for men to take, and men can take Nolvadex and tamoxifen too, but the problem is, while you neutralize the estrogenic effects, you're not getting rid of the estrogen. In other words, your testosterone is still converting to estrogen, so you're losing testosterone. That's why men use aromatase inhibitors. Women use estrogen receptor blockers.
Let's go to R Sambo 00. Dave, I'm a natural bodybuilder. I'll be 36 this November. How much longer can I count on being able to gain muscle? I assume gains will decrease as I get older.
Look, I would. It sounds logical on paper that as we get older, we shouldn't be able to put as much muscle on. But I've seen guys put muscle on into their 60s, so it's hard to say. Guys that get started later tend to grow better as they get older. Guys that have been training their whole life usually don't tend to grow when they get older. But I also think that's because there's more injuries the longer you've been training. So I would never put, and people tell me this all the time. I have guys that I'm working on in the off season with them. They're like, how much muscle do you think I'm going to gain? I'm like, I'm not going to put a number on it. Because as soon as I put a number on that you'll never go past that number. It'll put a mental block in your head. So keep an open mind. I believe that you can put on muscle and that you can make improvements. They've shown that 90-year-old people can start weight training and they can make improvements. So don't put a limit on what you think you can do.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com. Now, Bugatti Raw has asked this about 3-4 times, and Dave, I'll let you answer it. He is asking, assuming that you are going to be competing again. He wants to know when you'll be competing at a master show, whether or not you'll reveal your cycle. But he doesn't go with if, but when.
Well, there is no cycle. There is no show planned. It was an April Fool's joke. I don't know if you guys caught it, but I won't be competing anytime soon. Probably never again, but I will never say never because you never know. Maybe if I make it to 100, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm still alive. At that point, maybe I'll look good enough. I'll be like, you know what? Maybe I can still do this. Probably by then, Gary Udit, if he's still alive too, will have the over 100 category. Now they're up to the 80 and over category. Probably by next year they'll have over 90, and maybe like in 20 years they'll have over 100. I won't be there yet, but I could shoot for that when I am 100 though.
Let's go to Rob Lang. What are your thoughts on Cedric McMillan if he can crack the top 2 at this year's Olympia?
I think the top 2 is going to be tough for Cedric to make. I don't think that he's there yet. But then again, Cedric McMillan is the kind of bodybuilder that can come in and surprise everyone. I don't think anyone thought he was going to challenge Kai Green at the Arnold this year. I don't think Phil Heath is getting pushed out of the top 2 this year, even if he's off. You never know. What are the chances of Cedric being top 2? Slim, but not zero. If I was a betting man, I'd probably give it 80-1 odds.
Interesting. Let's go to Todd Beecraft. And for those of you who don't know, Dave does in fact train coach Triple H, and we have ever since WrestleMania happened gotten a lot of questions about what Dave's methods were coaching Triple H, what he had him on, what he had him doing. So Todd Beecraft wants to know what was Triple H's body weight and body fat percentage at the time of WrestleMania.
He probably, believe it or not, he probably looked bigger than he was. He was probably around 240 maybe. But obviously, his upper body is way bigger than his legs, which is functional for wrestlers. They don't want to have huge legs. They need to have more agility. So a lot of that 235, 240 is on that upper body of his. His body fat was about as low as it goes. I don't think you could even measure it. It had to be, under 6%, probably like 4 or 5%. He was as lean as he's ever been. He always has that little bit of lower back fat that never kind of goes away, which is fine for wrestling. It usually don't matter. But I told him I really wanted to see him crazy shredded, and we pushed him that little extra bit, and we got his weight down about 8 pounds lighter than it's ever been, and that was perfect for him, which made him look a lot bigger on stage. It's all an illusion anyway. He was tanned up nice. So, once again, we set different goals for different competitions, for different events he has. This was a big one. Matter of fact, he was supposed to wrestle The Rock originally. The Rock actually, a lot of people don't know this, but The Rock was so busy with his movies that he couldn't commit to the match. Obviously, at the last minute, The Rock did wind up going to WrestleMania and participating, but not in the, not in the way they wanted him to. When you're doing movies, The Rock does movies, the movie houses have to insure these guys. And when The Rock said, hey, I want to wrestle Triple H at WrestleMania, they're like, no way, because I think The Rock had hurt himself once before, and it sets back shooting, and then it cost the studios money. So, he wound up wrestling, what's his name, Roman Reigns, excuse me. And they build it up as that. But, it's great because these guys really do people don't realize they really do diet hard. Triple H trains at 11 o'clock at night. Joe DeFranco goes over his house and trains him and his wife, Stephanie. He squeezes in cardio in the middle of the day. He eats like a machine. I mean, it's amazing that he can do what he can do. I think I'm busy. He's running the WWE. I mean, essentially, it's incredible that this guy finds the time to train. That's why when you guys complain and give me excuses, hey, I can't do that, don't make excuses. There's always a way to get it done.
And of course, we are still working on scheduling a live with Triple H and his wife. We're gonna keep
end of the month.
End of the month. All right, there you go.
I already got
So we'll keep you looped in on the details, and everything's gonna come. It's gonna be great. Obviously, let's go to Guillermo Vega. Is it true that Tony Freeman is going to be making $350,000 a year over at another organization? By the way, hate this crappy show.
It's funny. It's like a game of telephone now. It went from 300,000, now it's 350,000. Next week it'll be 400,000. Tony told me 300,000.
Man's getting paid.
After I went and did my rant and posted on the RX Muscle forums about how I thought it was ridiculous what Tony's doing and why he moved over. He called me up. Not only did he call me on the phone, he called me on FaceTime, so I had to actually see him face to face. And he said, everything you said was 100% accurate, except the fact that I'm not getting paid. He goes, I am getting paid. I said, okay. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, since we're so honest with each other and we are friends, when you cash the first paycheck, send me a copy of it, and I'll post it. This way, I said, because I don't think you're ever going to get one. Or if you do get one, I don't think it's going to be cashable. So I'm waiting to get the cash paycheck from Tony Freeman, check number one, and we'll see. As a matter of fact, he himself said, if I don't get paid, I have this all on video, I'm going to expose Lee Thompson as being, a fraud. So let's see what happens. I mean, that's the best way to say it.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. Let's go to Michael Renkricha. Dave, what do you think about Bostin Loyd's controversial loss at his recent show?
Well, as you know, I'm friends with Bostin Loyd, even though he can act like a cuckoo bird sometimes with some of this, cycles and stuff he does. I do advise him on diet when he has questions for me, and then other stuff when he has questions for me. And he probably listens to 50% of what I tell him. I think he's a good guy. I thought he looked really good at his show, maybe the best he's ever looked in his career. He was a little flat, but it was a close show. I wasn't there, and it's very hard to make a call on who should win when you're not there. The other guy had some advantages. Bostin had some good advantages in certain poses. Boston's very tall, so sometimes, that works against you against a shorter guy on stage. I think Boston's conditioning was better. The other guy had some better body parts. It was a crapshoot, whether Boston's political stance, cost him maybe the overall victory. That's debatable. I don't think so, not at a regional level. But, Boston is all about controversy. So he took whatever happened to him and he used that as a way to promote himself even more, so to speak. And I understand his whole social media blitzing campaign that he does. And it works for him, Do I think he should have won? I don't know. I wasn't there. If I was there, I could make a definitive statement.
Let's go to Nicholas L. Kuhn. Hey, Dave, France hates this show so much that I am the only French person watching your show. That may not be the case, and I'll tell you why. Because in about 30 minutes, we are going to be joined by a Frenchman in Lionel Baecki. He is going to be on our live with show. So if you're watching us on our YouTube channel for the first time ever, first, we ask you to subscribe, hitting the button below. Second, we ask you to go to rxmuscle.com, sign up for the Muscle Central Forum. That way you have access to the entire site, including the contest galleries. Third, we ask you to join us right here on rxmuscle.com, and we will have live from Paris, France, Lionel Baecki, who just competed at the Arnold Brazil. His question, Nicholas Alcoon wants to know, what is your ideal time for weight training during a day or night?
I don't think there is an ideal time. I think it's whatever works for the person who's training. I was always a guy that wakes up in the morning very depleted and dehydrated. So it's hard for me to go to the gym. It was, especially when I was lifting heavy, and go and put a maximum effort out without pulling something or getting cramping. So I like to get a couple meals in me. As a matter of fact, I was back in the day, and I'm going to be honest with you, I was very lazy. I would go to bed at 4:30 in the morning. I would wake up at 12 noon. and I would probably eat my first meal at 1 o'clock, to be totally honest with you. And what I would do is, because I like to train in the mid-afternoon, I would go to McDonald's, and I would have my McDonald's meal for my first meal, and I would have 6 cheeseburgers and a large supersized fry when they used to have supersized fries, and I would have 2 apple pies, and I would wait an hour, and I'd go to the gym. All that grease and salt and junk would just get absorbed into my muscle, and by the time I got to the gym an hour or so later, I felt really good and I had a good workout. If I was dieting and I wasn't eating, well, a lot of times when I dieted, I was eating that way too, but when I wasn't eating that, when I was eating cleaner, I would usually wait 2-3 meals before I got to the gym, because I just needed to get that food into my system where I felt the glycogen was loading up my muscles. I felt like the salt had been rehydrating me, so that, once again, I got a better pump in the gym. But I know guys that love to go first thing in the morning. They suck down a shake, they go to the gym, and they train, and they get good workouts. And so it all depends on what kind of time clock your body's working on.
There are a lot of questions here that are not in English, which is a good thing, but we don't have Google Translate
Maybe
directly
Johnny
on.
can translate it.
No. We got from Europe. So
well,
unless
Johnny
Johnny understands Croatian, let me see if I can find an English question here. Dave, I know for the 8,000th time, we got a question on DNP. I don't even know if you want to answer that. Let's see.
I don't recommend you use DNP.
There you
ever. Go. No DNP. Very dangerous.
Oh, here we go. Barbara Lester, I hate this show so much I would rather listen to Greg Valentino talking about his mother-in-law. Whoa. I'm going to leave it at that. Dave, will Dorian Yates come on your show anytime soon?
I reached out to him personally on Facebook. I don't know if he answers his own Facebook, and I had a couple friends indirectly ask him, and I don't know. He kind of, I don't know if it was a blow-off or if he's just busy, with whatever businesses and his gyms he's got down there. I didn't get a response back from him. We'll keep reaching out to him, because I would love to interview Dorian. I have a feeling he doesn't answer his own Facebook page, but if Dorian's listening, or anyone out there who knows Dorian, you can put us in touch with him. I would love to get him on. He was a guy who I really admired as a bodybuilder growing up in the 90s. He's a guy I tried to emulate. I trained like him. And I just thought he was, the epitome of what I wanted to be like, as a bodybuilder.
We're getting quite a few questions on Rick Drayson and if and when. So we'll go with the first part. If and when you plan on having Rick Drayson on the show.
I've had Rick Drayson on the radio show before. Great interview. He, a lot of people don't realize Rick Drayson is the guy who designed the Gold's Gym and the World Gym logos. At least the Gold's Gym logo. The guy with the big head and the big bulby arms. He designed those. He also is the guy, if you watch the old Incredible Hulk TV show with Bill Bixby back in the day and Lou Ferrigno, he was the demi-Hulk. In other words, he played the in-between. When the Hulk was transforming from Bill Bixby's David Banner into the Hulk, there was like an intermediate stage they showed on TV. That was Rick Drayson. So he played the demi-Hulk. He also has been around the professional wrestling industry. He has a very popular YouTube channel where he interviews people called Rick's Corner. We feature some of his top interviews on the RX Muscle website. I'd love to get him on again. Maybe we get him on a live with probably in the next couple weeks, because we haven't done a TV interview with him. And I know he's got the technology, so I think that would be a good idea.
The second part of the question, what were your favorite carb, fat, protein sources, both pre-contest and off-season when you were actively competing?
They're the same pretty much protein, fat, and carb sources I eat now. I always was a big brown rice person. I love brown rice for my carbs. I would use a little oatmeal as well. Grits I like as well. But I pretty much eat a lot of brown rice for my carb sources. Protein, I love salmon. I love swordfish. I eat a lot of chicken too, as most bodybuilders do. Whole eggs, omega-3 eggs, big for me, which also can cross over into the fat sources, because people say, what's the best fat sources? Well, I like to use some egg yolks, and I use the omega-3 eggs. I probably was back in the day, I would eat 6 whole eggs at one sitting. So, actually, way back when I was doing crazy shakes, I would do 12 eggs at one time in a blender, and I would drink them. But that was in my insane eating years when I was trying to really pack on the muscle. As far as other fat sources, I like nuts, almonds, walnuts, cashew nuts. I also like macadamia nut oil. As you guys know, I sell a Species Nutrition brand of that. Extra virgin olive oil, great sources of monounsaturated fats. So I like to vary the fat sources. I'm a big avocado guy. I love avocados when they're ripe and they're in season. I love incorporating that into my diet. I eat a lot of avocados now. I probably eat more avocado. I don't eat as many eggs as I used to eat. I eat way more avocado probably now in mac oil for my fat sources than I did back in the day, just because I don't know. You get like different cravings in your mouth. When I'm competing, I was lifting real heavy. I was a little bit more into more dense fats. Now I'm into more like lighter fats, like plant sources of fat. But I think it's important that you do get some saturated fat in your diet. A lot of people don't do that. You could do it through the egg yolks, like I said. You can do it through red meat. And I back in the day, I did eat a lot of red meat. I actually had a butcher who would butcher. I would buy a whole fillet from him, like filet mignon, and he would slice it up, and it would be like 25 pounds of filet mignon. And I would freeze them in like half-pound, increments in my freezer in vacuum-sealed bags, and I would have it for like a month. I would go through that. I would have a piece or two a day. So I think, once again, you got to see what works for your body, but I think red meat is important when you're trying to add mass.
Let's go to our Instagram page. If you're not following us on Instagram, it's official_RX Muscle. Let's go to Mason_Bateman. Dave, what are the best ways to increase and maintain an appetite when eating a calorie surplus in an off-season or a growing phase?
It's tough. Off-season is not easy. People think, off-season, I can eat whatever I want. This is great. You know what? After 2 or 3, 4 weeks of doing that, you're going to hate the food. A lot of people fail in their efforts to put on muscle because they just can't down enough food. I was like a machine. I would eat and guzzle shakes like it was my job. It was not done for pleasure whatsoever. I'm a big sushi fan because sushi goes down pretty easy. But when you're not hungry, it's hard to get food down. And I would just force it down. I would try the B12 injections. Everyone said that increased appetite. Nowadays, you got GHRP6, growth hormone releasing peptide 6, is a good appetite increaser. Basically, I just said, you know what? I want to be the best and the biggest, and I don't care what it takes. And I'm not gonna let this meal beat me. And I just found a way to get it down. Whether I had to gag it down, I used to just put the food in my mouth and chew it and swallow. I didn't care after a while. And, quite frankly, I was probably drinking more shakes than I was eating food in the off-season, especially towards the end of the off-season when I was just couldn't eat anymore. There was maybe 1 or 2 meals I would enjoy a day, and the rest of it was just like, I got to get this stuff down. And back in the day, I would eat tuna and rice because it was cheap. Try getting that down like 4 or 5 times a day. You want to throw up. But then once you start dieting, that food tastes like the greatest food on earth. So it's a big diversity. Here it is when you're dieting, the food tastes amazing, okay, and you don't have enough of it. And when you're eating everything you want, you can't get the food down because you're stuffed all the time. So go figure.
Let's go to Mr. C. Shadows. Dave, this show blows more than... Oh, wow, Monica Lewinsky. What are your thoughts on Arnold trolling Kai Green at all 3 Arnold Classics? 1, saying on stage he lost a physique round to Cedric. 2, telling Hare to hit a double with a vacuum knowing Kai can't. 3, tanning all the guys and then abruptly leaving before Kai. My opinion, not professional to air his opinions like that.
Look, Arnold is Arnold. Arnold will do whatever Arnold wants, and he can get away with it, and no one's going to say anything because he's Arnold. Arnold likes Cedric's physique. He thinks that he's, should be the epitome of Mr. Olympia, and because Cedric didn't win, Arnold voiced his opinion in his own sarcastic manner. That's what Arnold does. Arnold's a sarcastic, funny guy. And he didn't lie about the Arnold, USA because Cedric did win both, comparison rounds. Kai won because of the posing round. We went through this already ad infinitum. At the Arnold Brazil, that was a little bit of a shot he took on Kai to ask him to hit a front double bicep with a vacuum because he knows that Kai can't do it. But hey, that's back in the day. Everyone had vacuum poses. And, it is what it is. But the bottom line is that Kai won all 3 Arnold Classics. And I know Arnold knows that's good for business. And when things are good for business, there's nothing wrong with what's going on. So while Arnold did throw a dig in there, I'm sure at the same time Arnold is happy that Kai came to the show.
Let's go to K-Dog's Gym. Hey, Dave, is insulin a must when trying to become an IFBB pro? I've always been reluctant to try it due to the fact that I've heard stories of people dying from this stuff.
Well, I don't know of anyone who died from taking insulin, at least not a bodybuilder, that is. Sure, if you take too much of it, you can drop your blood sugar real low, but you'd have to do something completely stupid, like not know how to measure the insulin to kill yourself, in which case that's just ignorance right there. And remember what my slogan is for the show, End the ignorance. One of the ways you can end the ignorance is to watch shows like this where we actually instruct people and we tell people the right way to do things and how to read labels and stuff like that. Is insulin necessary? No. First of all, not everyone needs insulin. There are some guys out there who have very fast metabolisms, who are very insulin sensitive, who when they take growth hormone, they do need some insulin. Otherwise, they won't gain weight. Most people out there, when they take insulin, they just get fat. So you got to figure out what your metabolic rate is, what kind of metabolism you have, how you metabolize carbs, and then you make a decision if you need insulin or not. So to answer the question, no, you don't need insulin to turn pro.
Let's go to, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the name, Ciaran Murray. Here from the Irish fitness group Wow Fitness, your show is as real as Rich Piana's two testicles. Just wanted to ask, what's the best way to stay lean while trying to bulk? I'm 240, 6'8", 11% body fat, but want to gain as much muscle as possible with minimal fat gain in a 5-month period.
Well, what you said was kind of mutually exclusive. If you want to put on the maximum amount of muscle you can put on in a short period of time, then you can't be worried about staying lean. If you said to me, you know what, I want to gain a little bit of muscle, but I would like to stay lean, that's a more reasonable goal. You can put some muscle on while maintaining a level of leanness because now you can keep your carbs lower and you don't have to worry about calories. But when you want to maximize gains, you got to eat an abundance of calories. And when you eat an overabundance of calories, you're going to put some body fat on, some water retention. It comes with the territory. Doesn't mean you should get sloppy, but it means you have to accept that fact. So if you want to be a great bodybuilder, you have to have off seasons where you're going to be a little out of shape, and you're going to have on seasons where you get back in shape and get ripped. At some point in my career, in the beginning of my career, I wasn't always ripped. At some point, when I attained a certain level of muscularity, you probably want to hit over 300 pounds. At that point, once I stopped over-gorging myself because I knew I didn't need to be bigger, I stayed relatively lean. But it took me till I was, 280 solid pounds before that happened. And once again, I wasn't trying to get bigger. If I still was trying to get bigger, I would have had to go up over 300 again. At some point, I just said, you know what, that's not reasonable. It's probably not good for my health, and I don't really need any more muscle, so I stopped doing it. But once again, to maximize muscle gains, there's no way around getting a little body fat and a little water retention.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. Reminder, in about 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to be joined on Live With by Lionel Bayeki, live from Paris, France. So you're not going to want to miss that. Join us again in about 20 minutes, Live With Lionel Bayeki, right here on RxMuscle.com. Time for a couple of more questions. Let's go to Aisha M. Fit. Hi, Dave. I'm looking to start my first cycle. I would like to know what should be the duration, or what should the duration of a cycle be? What should be a typical stack and dosage for figure and a bikini girl? Does hitting your natural peak matter? Is it necessary to do well on the pro level in either bikini or figure category?
Here's my problem with bikini and figure girls taking gear. Most of them don't train long enough to get to their maximum potential. In other words, why would you take gear if you can put natural muscle on naturally? So I'd say train for a few years. That's always my recommendation. Most people don't want to wait. They're in this instantaneous gratification type of world. The truth be told, for figure and bikini, you should never take anything more than Anavar in terms of anabolic steroids go, because Anavar virtually has no side effects, assuming you have real Anavar. How could you tell if you have real Anavar? You go to DavePalumbo.com and you buy Lloyd test and you test the stuff. Remember, end the ignorance. Don't be ignorant. If I see a woman who has side effects because they think they're taking Anavar and they're actually taking Dianabol, shame on you. You can go test that product and find out if it's real. Just go to DavePalumbo.com and go on Royd test, buy the Royd test, and you can test it. Now, assuming you have real Anavar, you're virtually not going to get side effects if you keep your dosages around 5 to 20 milligrams a day, and you should get some nice gains from that, and you don't have to worry about your hair growing on your face, and you're getting a deep voice, and all the other side effects that come associated with the other anabolics. Does that mean that people are going to listen to me? Of course not. But we're here to end the ignorance. There's no reason for a bikini girl to be taking Winstrol and Primobolan and Deca and worse than that, which I've seen some of these girls taking. Ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous. They don't even want you to have a lot of muscle in bikini. So I don't know why you do it. And in figure two, if you start taking too many drugs, you're going to get ugly. And guess what? When you get ugly, you don't do as well on stage. So my recommendation is, if you're going to use anabolics, stick to Anavar, maybe a little bit of growth hormone, which is not an anabolic steroid, so there's no side effects, no androgenic side effects associated with that. More so, most of the bikini and figure girls need to worry about getting in shape. In that sense, you might want to try an estrogen blocker like Nolvadex, maybe some Cytomel, which is a thyroid hormone, or clenbuterol, which is a fat burner. That's where you should be concentrating your efforts, not on anabolic steroids.
Last question, Bodybuilder 13, not going to bother with the whole I hate this show. We all love it. Your position on cholesterol, and would it be a good idea to eat shrimp on a daily basis?
Shrimp, believe it or not, first of all, eating cholesterol doesn't raise cholesterol. Even the government has said that. Even the American Heart Association has put out something that says, you know what raises cholesterol in the body? Sugar intake. Because sugar stimulates the body to make cholesterol. In other words, our bodies don't need to ingest cholesterol. We can actually make it in there. And if we overmake it, we have too much cholesterol in the body, and that's when our cholesterol levels go up. So if you want to maintain, if you want to keep, your cholesterol levels in check, just don't eat too much sugar. So shrimp is fine on the diet. Shellfish is fine. Personally, I don't like to eat too many scavenger fish, which that means fish that eat off the bottom. Shrimp, crabs, lobsters. Although I love the taste of it, I don't eat a ton of it because you accumulate the toxins that the fish are eating off the bottom accumulate in their bodies. But other than that, from a macronutrient standpoint, from a protein, fat, carb standpoint, knock yourself out, enjoy your shrimp. And I want to just make one statement. I know that was the last question, Sid. I want to thank all our listeners for and viewers out there worldwide, because I know that it's not just the United States. All over the world, you guys are watching. I get the emails, I get the texts, I get the WhatsApp from you guys thanking you for doing the show and answering your questions. And you know what? It's my pleasure. I believe in ending the ignorance. Put the truth out there. Give you guys how to do things the right way, what the true science is out there, dispel the myths. That's what Ask Dave is all about, and thank you for supporting the show. And if you really love it, make sure you subscribe below.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. We're not done on RX Muscle. In about 15 to 20 minutes, retune back here on rxmuscle.com. We're going to be joined live by Lionel Bayecki, live from Paris, France. He just competed at the Arnold Brazil. We're going to be joined by Lionel Bayecki right here on rxmuscle.com. For Dave and our producer Johnny, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you in a bit.